We're here because we celebrate your career, and you accepted the Golden Icon Award last night. And I had the impression it was quite emotional for you. Tell us about.
It was so exciting. I mean, you don't really we do our life. We just do our life and try to survive and try to be our best, and we fall down and get up and fall down and stay down and then struggle back up, and suddenly there was my life on screen. It was so full of memories and emotion and friendship, and I was like, oh my God, there's my life. It was very exciting. It was very emotional and wonderful and exciting. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we are very honored that you came. You picked Casino for that evening, and you stayed and watched it.
I did. Because
Were you happy with what you saw?
I hadn't seen the film in probably at least 15 years. And it's a sensational film. I mean, Martin Scorsese, what a director. Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, James Woods. What a cast. And to be a part of this cinematic history, I was like, and I was sitting there, I'm like, I'm in that movie. Thank you. Just can't believe it. I can't believe it's me. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have 3 teenage boys. I've been at COVID lockdown with 3 teenage boys. I live in a fraternity house with, smelly socks and loud boys. I forgot I was a movie star. I was like, oh my God, I was in movies. I remember a life where I was in movies. If my kids saw this, they would be so surprised.
Do you like to be a star? I had the impression, there are stars and stars, and you're definitely a star. When you enter a room, everybody pays attention to you. Did you want to become a star?
Well, sure. Who in this room would like to be a movie star? I mean, come on. Everybody has this idea they want to be a movie star, but then when it happens, you're like, holy fuck. It's not really it's just so overwhelming. One day you're driving down the street and you stop at a stop sign and nobody cares. A week later you stop at a stop sign and 30 people climb on top of your car and you can't drive. And you're like, do I drive? Will they fall off my car? Is it illegal if I drive when people are on top of my car? If I hit them now, am I in trouble? What happens? You don't know what the rules are anymore. Your whole world changed and you don't know how you're supposed to live. Your whole life changes. And when I did Total Recall, my life changed for a little bit. And then it changed right back. But when I did Basic Instinct, my life changed and it never changed back. So after 2 or 3 years, I was like, oh, this isn't going to go away. This is my new life. So now, of course, it's been my new life for 30 years. But in the beginning, you're like, what do you mean I can't go for a walk? What do you mean I can't go to the supermarket? Why can't I go to the movies? And you feel like a prisoner in the beginning. You just don't know how to live.
But if you could go back, would you do an actress career?
Who in this room wants to be a movie star? See, no, you don't want to go back because what's worse than being a movie star?
Not being a movie star.
Right. So you have to work it out. You work it out. You know, so it's a complicated journey when your destiny changes, and everybody's destiny changes. It doesn't matter if you're a movie star or a plumber. Your destiny is going to change and shift, and you have to learn to change your life.
But you said that with Total Recall a bit and with Basic Instinct a lot, your life changed. But did you change? I mean, what I admire, and maybe I can reveal something for yesterday, we went to a reception and went to the kitchen. And you started talking to the chef and the people in the kitchen, and you very easily can connect with the regular guy. How did you keep this simplicity?
Well, for example, I was staying in the south of France last week at a hotel that I have stayed at for 25 years, because we always do the Amphar Gala with this hotel. I know all the staff because all the staff works with us at Amphar. I know the chef, I know the pastry chef, I know the valet, head of valet Parkers. They're like my closest friends because they help us build the Amphar event. I had no idea the hotel was a spa. I had no idea there were beach cabanas, nothing, because I'm always working like a dog and I'm working with the staff. But I came early. I had a job there, but I came like 5 days early just because I needed to get my brain together. And it was the first time I've ever had a vacation, maybe in general, but also at this hotel. And the staff was like, oh, you should do this. Try that. And I was like, I've never had a vacation at this amazing place. So I know the staff far more than I know how to be like living the luxury life, because most of my life has been on the road working on film or on the road working for AIDS research. So most of my life is spent with flight attendants, hotel concierges, hotel housekeepers, valet parkers, these chefs. These are the people that I work with.
So hanging around with Robert De Niro and Arnold Schwarzenegger is not the main part of your everyday life.
It is at work, and then we work together so closely that we become compatriots because we work making a film, like Casino took 5 months, and then we have to sell it all over the world. So we become friends and associates. For example, I just was a judge at the Robert De Niro's Tribeca Film Festival.
Let's talk about your youth. You grew up in Pennsylvania. Your father was a factory worker.
Yes.
A rather modest background. How was youth then, and when did you realize that you wanted to become an actress?
My mother said I came out of the womb being an actress. So probably always. They tried to stop it.
And were you an avid moviegoer, or was there like a star you had as a model?
Well, you know, we lived in a very, very small town. So our movies were like third-run movies. You know, we didn't get the new movies ever. And, you know, I'm old, so we had 3 channels. And, you know, Saturday morning was when we had all of the good old black and white movies, which was my big thing. So like that.
Tell us something about your parents and what you learned from them.
Oh. Good and bad. My dad was an extreme feminist. He came from extreme wealth, oil drilling in Oil City, Pennsylvania. And when he was little, there was a huge accident where the oil well blew up and killed his uncle and everybody at the site, and his father died 3 months later. And all of the money went to the other family because there was an older son, and my dad and his brother were 4 and 5. And so his family became destitute, completely poor. And my dad was given away to live in people's barns and do farming chores, as was his brother, who then joined the Navy when he was 15. And my grandmother went to work in an asylum and took her daughter. And my father always thought that it was so wrong that his mother didn't get half of the oil money simply because she was a woman. And he thought that this way that women were treated was so wrong that he and his sister went to school and got 2 master's degrees because his mother was furious. And my aunt took me every summer and every vacation and spent time with me. And it was a real thing that I would not be, I would not live with this attitude. And my dad was just insistent that I have this feminist attitude. So much so that I never thought of myself as a feminist, because these were the rules of my household. So when I came to Hollywood, people thought I was really strange because I was so, this is the way it is, because this is the way it was not in Hollywood. But it helped me.
And what about your mother? What kind of a woman was she?
My mother, my mother's mother and her grandmother were housekeepers. And my mother was given away when she was 9 years old to be a housekeeper. And she was a live-in housekeeper, maid, and cook from the time she was 9 years old. And our house was really clean. And boy, can I keep a house clean. But it was terrible that she'd never had a childhood, you know? And so my mother was very tough, very, very tough. And I always say this thing because I asked my mother a few years ago, why did you never let me lean on you? And she said, because I taught you to stand on your own 2 goddamn feet. And when she said it to me, it felt so cold and so hard. But then I wrote this book called The Beauty of Living Twice, and I read it to her. And then she told me about her life, about why she was given away, about her life being this tiny child housekeeper running an entire family with children, and then walking 2 miles to school and walking home and doing the laundry and making dinner and taking care of the house. And I realized that for my mother to teach me to stand on my own 2 goddamn feet was teaching me to love myself and not to let someone ever take that from me. Because for my mother, that was the only love she had. And if you think about really knowing and understanding your parent, then you can start to have some compassion, not only for them, but for yourself. Because they can't give you something they never had. But they can give you the best of the thing that they did have. And if you have a brain in your head, you can translate that into, that is love. And I did get love.
You said that they thought you were crazy when you started a film career. Were they proud when they saw what you achieved?
Well, we're digging deep now. It was a difficult moment. My brother became a drug dealer and got arrested for drugs. And he was going to prison. he was going to prison for cocaine trafficking. And it was a really bad situation. And my parents, I think, finally understood that their fear of me leaving and pursuing what I wanted instead of what they hoped for me to do might be, maybe they were hanging on, and maybe it was more dangerous than letting me do what I actually wanted to do.
Tell us about how you became an actress. One of the first roles was in Woody Allen's Stardust Memory. How did you get that part, and how was it to work with Woody Allen?
I made friends with a casting agent who cast extras, you know, the background people in movies. A great guy in New York named Riccardo Bertoni. And he had helped Sly get Rocky made, because no one wanted to make Rocky. Everyone thought, this guy who talked like this, he was never going to be a star, he was stupid. But Riccardo said, this guy is really special. And he said, you're special too, Sharon, and something's going to happen for you. And I was trying to model in New York. And he called me one day and said, there's a casting for extras in Woody Allen's movie. Come over here right away. And it was this big casting agent, very important casting agent. And it was outside. And I didn't have any money, so I was roller skating to all of my auditions. So I roller skated over, and I'm pretty tall, so in the roller skates, I was gigantic. And I roller skated over to this audition and stood in line. And when I got to the front of the line, the casting director was taking the pictures and handing them behind her. And then she said to me, we'd like you to stay a minute. Woody would like to talk to you. And I was like, and I came around, and Woody Allen was back here. So I went back, and I sit down beside Woody Allen, and he didn't talk to me. So I sat there for 20 minutes, and he just sat there, and he never talked to me, so I was like, this is crazy, and I skate away, and I got a call, okay, you're cast to be in a Woody Allen movie. So I go, okay, I'm going to get on the bus. There's 150 people. Everybody's supposed to wear white. Fine, I come. But always I bring like a giant bag of books, because I take a book on a date. This is, me. So I have my books. I'm sitting there. I'm reading this book about how to explain infinity to a child. And this guy comes and says, there was a girl that was supposed to be in the movie. She got stung in the face with a bee. Would you like to be in the movie? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, Woody will come and speak to you. I'm like, fantastic. So I'm sitting here reading the book. Woody comes down and says, what are you reading? I say, this book about infinity. We have this long conversation about infinity, which makes sense, right? If it's Woody, because, And he says, okay. Then the guy comes back and says, you got the part. I say, great. So what do I do now? And I had the part right that second. And so I went and got dressed, and they gave me the part, and I shot for like 2 days. And then the cinematographer, Gordon Willis, who shot all the Godfather movies and everything, said that he really liked me. And Woody said he really liked me. And they said, would you like to stay? We'll give you a bigger part if you want to stay. And I was like, why, yes. How wonderful. And so they kept me for like 2 weeks.
Are you still in contact with him? Is this someone you...
No, but I have done 2 more movies. I did a movie that Storaro shot, like an experimental movie. And then John Turturro and Woody wrote a movie that John Turturro directed with Vanessa Paradis and Sofia Vergara that we did some years ago, Fading Gigolo.
Let's talk briefly about Total Recall. You already said that it changed your career. How was it to work with Schwarzenegger, and what did you learn from him?
I learned a lot from him. He's an astonishing professional. I mean, nobody is prepared like Arnold. And when we had to do and it was hard because I had a lot of physical stuff. You know, I did karate 3 days a week. I lifted weights 3 days a week. My part was very physical. I gained 25 pounds of muscle to play the part because, you know, I really had to fight him. You know, I really had to do it. So it was a lot of work. And then when we sold the picture, it was the first time I really had to sell a big studio picture film. And he watched all of my press interviews, and he would talk to me about how to do them, how to respond, what's an appropriate way to deal with some of these crazy questions or various things. And he was very, 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 really brilliant, super brilliant. Yeah, I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot working with him.
Arnie used the Cannes Film Festival a lot to promote his films and
Yes.
was one of the legendary stars of Cannes,
Yeah.
and so are you. I mean, with Basic
you.
Instinct, the myth is you entered the Palais a nobody and came out the big star. How do you remember that
Exactly
night at
like
Cannes?
that. I got ready. I came here. I didn't know what was going to happen. I came to Cannes. We left the hotel. I had a little car. My two best girlfriends came with me. We were all shoved in this tiny car. I had one car, one bodyguard. We went on the carpet, and the red carpet, you know, is like half as wide as this room, and all the paparazzi in black tie. We got on the carpet, and all of the fans that had seen the movie earlier in the day went crazy and started yelling my name, you know, Sharon, Sharon. And I was like, what the fuck? You know, and they're just shoving me out. And I was like, holy Toledo, right? And so we went in, we saw the movie, we came out, and it was pandemonium. And I tried to get back to the hotel in my car, and it was just almost impossible to get to the hotel. The next morning, I put on my bikini and a bathing suit cover-up, went down to the pool. When I came back, I couldn't get to my room, and everything I had was stolen. No. All my clothes, my contact lenses, my camera, all my underwear, all my clothing, my toothbrush, everything was gone. And I had my bathing suit cover up, and that was it, and my sandals. And they said, we have to get you out of this hotel. You're not safe here, because it was on the Croisette. And you don't have any bodyguards or cars. So we're going to get the kitchen staff and the housekeepers to help get you out of here. And we're going to take you out the back. And they put me in, they did this thing they called the buttonhole, where everybody, give me your arm, you hold each other's arms like this. And they put everybody around me. And we're walking out of the hotel. And there were just thousands of people inside, outside, everywhere screaming. And some guy ran at me and hit my toe and ripped my toenail out. And I was like, wow! And we couldn't stop. And my foot is bleeding. And the guy's on the floor. And we're trying to get out of the hotel. And I get in the car, and people are crushing the car. And they put me in the back of this little car still, right? And so there's the hump. And I'm laying over the hump on the floor like this. And people are pounding on the car. And my best friends are laying on top of me. And I don't know what to do. And the bodyguard, one poor bodyguard, doesn't know what to do. And we're trying to drive through it. And my friends start singing, Kumbaya, my lord, Kumbaya. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Right? And
Do you like? I mean, obviously, in the Cannes history, there is Brigitte Bardot, there is Schwarzenegger, and there is Sharon Stone. You're always very spectacular on the red carpet, and also yesterday on the green carpet. Do you like this? You know,
well, I like
catwalk.
I like it a lot better now, because people don't rip my clothes off anymore, and they don't feel that need to. I need a piece of that dress. I need a piece of her hair. I need to touch her. I need it like they did. Because this happened to me, get ready, before cell phone pictures. Right before cell phones with pictures. So it was all real paparazzi and live human beings. Now, because there's cell phone pictures, there's 1/100th of the human beings. Then it was all human beings. So it was like when the Beatles were famous. Do you know what I mean? There would be literally thousands of actual human beings. So it was horrifying. Now, cell phones, everybody's like this. It's very different. People don't actually have that frenzy. The frenzy is gone.
But did you feel molested or did you enjoy it?
I was molested. I mean, there were many times when they brought out the National Guard or they brought out SWAT to get me out of a building, or they'd bring in Mossad to take care of me on a movie set. Because like the roof of my car would be caved in or the bumpers pulled off while I was trying to drive somewhere. The rear view mirrors ripped off, the bodyguards sucked into the crowds. They had to huge. I was somewhere and the police couldn't get me out and they called SWAT. They called SWAT to get us in or out of a building. It was that level. Mm-hmm. So no, I didn't like it.
What did you like?
It was terrifying.
You said yesterday that we don't know you, but we decided to love you. And what I know is who you were, what you played in movies, and certainly the femme fatale was an important role in Basic Instinct, but also in others. What do you like about these mysterious women you played?
That takes time. I wanted the part in Basic Instinct, not because she was a femme fatale, but because she was brilliant and because she was so complicated and because she was, to me, a complete psychopath. And I thought it was absolutely fascinating. And when I always loved Orson Welles, and I had seen this film that Orson Welles did with Edward G. Robinson and Loretta Young. And this performance in it I thought was absolutely fascinating. And I have just these very few different performances by actors that are like keys in my work, just real keys. And this performance by Orson Welles was a key to me of something I really wanted to try to crack as an actor. I thought it was one of the most masterful things I'd ever seen. And this Basic Instinct character, I thought, oh, she's like this. She's like this Orson Welles character. I can crack this. And I felt it was going to be tough to crack, but if I cracked it and if I could have her come out smooth, really, really smooth, then I would have really mastered this character. I think I mastered her so well that people didn't understand how difficult the character was to get, because she was really complicated, like ripped me up. really broke me apart to play this character, broke me down a lot. I had nightmares. I walked in my sleep. It was hard for me, this character, to get to.
But it's worth it because it's one of the iconic characters in movie history. Catherine Trammell, everybody
Everybody
knows
loves her. But they also thought at the beginning that I was like that, or that it was funny, that character. I don't think that, I think it's taken a long time for people to really comprehend that that is a very, at least for me, maybe it's not for another actress, but for me it was a complicated character to find. The like the absolute bubble in the middle of the balance to play such a crazy, demented, calculating character.
I always thought it's a pity that Hitchcock didn't know you. You would have been the perfect star for Hitchcock.
Obviously, I'm obsessed with Hitchcock. Obviously, that's so clear in my work. Yeah. I really find not only the pace and the cinematography of Hitchcock quite fascinating, but his hairdressers were so key to the elemental psychological design of the film. And we often don't think about how important costume, hair, and makeup is to film and to anything, to an appearance, to an event. But the shapes of the hair in Hitchcock films are very key and represent so much psychologically about what's happening. If you look, for example, at the hair in Vertigo, even the French roll that she has the vertiginous spin at the top of the French roll, and you see it. If you look at Grace Kelly's hair in Rear Window, there is very specific ways that her hair is done in the back so that when she's at the window, she has a very specific profile and back of the hair. There's something in each of the films in the way that all of the women's hair is done. It's Tippi Hedren's hair in The Birds. It's done specifically so that if the birds come into the hair, they cling to the hair. So everything that he did was so specific and detailed. I think that's one of the things that I like about it so much. That he was very like, Lubitsch. You know, earlier in if you look at Franz Lubitsch films, there's lots and lots of lots that's just a visual demarcation of telling the story. And if you miss it, you miss all the clues further down the line. And this was called the Lubitsch touch. Yeah. And I feel that Hitchcock really had the Lubitsch touch.
Let's talk briefly about the world you came in Hollywood when you became a superstar. This was the early 90s. It was a very male-dominated studio world with muscle stars like Arnie Sly, Bruce Willis, and then you were one of the first really female superstars.
Muscle stars. I was a muscle star too. Yeah.
How did you impose yourself in this male's world?
I got really lucky. I am and was an enormous Paul Verhoeven fan. I think his films are extraordinary. And I had seen them all, Soldier of Orange, Spetters, everything. I was just obsessed with his filmmaking. And so when I got called, did I want to come in and meet on Total Recall? I was like, ugh, all I do is action movies. I like action to death. And they said, yeah, it's this director, Paul Verhoeven, this Dutch director, I don't know. And I was like, it's Paul Verhoeven? Verhoeven? Spetters, Verhoeven? And they said, yeah, why? And I'm like, I'll go right now. I'll go right now. And so when I went in to see him, I went in because in Los Angeles, they were always trying to make me be very feminine. very lady. And I was like, oh, he's killing me. So when I went in to see Verhoeven, I remember very well that I had this outfit that was like knit, tight pants to here, knit sweater, and like another knit sweater to here, but everything on the body. And then I wore like heels like this. And everybody always told me, don't wear high heels, you're taller than all the actors. Just don't be so aggressive, Sharon. Don't be so loud. Don't have so many opinions. It'll be better if you just tell them this is how you feel. Men don't want to hear you how you think, Sharon. And I was like, okay. Right? So I would go in with my stockings and garters and make sure my stockings made a noise. I tried everything. I tried everything. But so with Verhoeven, I just went in like a fucking 9 foot tall Viking. Big hair, big giant woman. And I walked into the room and he went, oh, you're very good. You're big, you're strong. I like that. And I was like, I know all your movies. Everything, every single one. And then it was just like, oh. And it was like, we were on. It was so great. And then that's when I realized, maybe I'll work better with European directors. Maybe I should try to stay out of the American lane.
And you did a lot for women in Hollywood. I mean, you were like someone paving the way for young actresses who came after you, because you were the first one who fought back and asked for more female dressers and
money.
Head of departments.
And money. I mean, when I said I wanted to make money, after I made $500,000 on Basic Instinct and Michael made $14 million, and then I said on the next movie, maybe I could make 2. And they said, no, women don't make over 1. And I said, that doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem right. Why? I'm not going to do that. And they said, oh, yes, you are. And I said, no. No, I don't think so. And they said, you have to. And then I thought of my dad, and I talked to my dad. And my dad said, you don't have to do anything. And I said, well, what am I going to do? He said, you're going to remember that you look good in a burlap bag. And I said, well, what will happen if I don't work? He said, you have the biggest hit movie in the world. Let's see if you don't work. Why don't you wait and see if you don't work?
Is this one of the reasons why you started also to produce? You produced The Quick and the Dead. By the way, if you haven't seen it, it's a very cool Western.
Yeah.
A bit ahead of its time. Today it would be praised as a feminist Western and would make big money at the box office.
I had so much resistance on that movie. Everything I wanted. I want Leo DiCaprio. Pay him out of your own money. Okay. I want Russell Crowe. Why do you want this guy who's only played a skinhead? Well, because he's a genius actor, and I think he's really the one. I would like Sam Raimi to direct it. Sharon, why do you always shoot yourself in the foot? Have you seen his films? And he'll do it for free. I think he's great. Then he did Spider-Man next and was their biggest box office director they ever had. They banned me from the studio for 8 years for that choice. It just was on. And finally, I kept trying to make this very modern movie. And I got, the great Dante Spinotti as the cinematographer. I mean, it was fantastic to make this film. And then I had Rick Elfman, Danny Elfman, they're twins, Rick and Danny, I can never know, but Oingo Boingo. I had him to come in to make the music. And they're like, you cannot put modern music on a Western. And they locked me out of the editing room and said, you're done producing this movie. You're just done. And I was like, And then I don't know how many years, 5 years, and modern music started going on all films, but not mine. Not on a woman's film. It was like, get out. It just was so hard as a woman. And I asked for like a little amount of money to direct a film. And they were like, no woman directors, no. I'm like, but I only want like a small amount of money. No. I mean, it was just, everything was a no. But you have to understand, this was 30 years ago. And I was just smashing my head to get anything.
But if you look at Hollywood today, are you happy or happier? Have things changed for the better now?
I am really grateful that women get to work. But you have to understand, I didn't get to work for 20 years. Between 40 and 60, I didn't get to work because I did that.
You should have been a French woman, because in France, women can work.
Keep
Catherine
working.
Deneuve, Sophie Marceau, they are still around and do
Right.
big
But
films.
I was looking at like the video from last night, which I'd love to have a copy of, by the way. It was
We'll send it to
so
you, don't
moving.
worry.
But I looked at, there was all that work, then no work, then Ratchet. And I was like, right. Because when I turned 40, that was it. No more work for Sharon.
Okay, we tried to restart your career. You look so beautiful and you are so talented. There must be more offers for you.
Well, now, thank you. Thank you so much. I do so appreciate that, genuinely. I really, really do. Thank you. And I do enjoy my work. And frankly, it's also okay that I didn't work, because I got all this time to work on AIDS research, all this time to work on breast cancer research, lupus research, homelessness, and to raise my kids. So karmically, it really worked out beautifully, although financially not great, but karmically really, really great. I mean, it's just been beautiful to be with my kids, who are now 15, 16, and 21.
You have 3 sons.
Three
What ideals
sons.
do you teach them?
Well, only my youngest is at all interested in my business, and he's super interested in it, but doesn't want to share that with me. It's like his thing alone. And he's in improv class, loving it, loves computer animation, loves film, will watch a movie with me, tell me everything that's right and wrong with it. You know, he's very clever about filming and filmmaking. My middle son is a very advanced student. He's 16. He wants to be a heart surgeon. He watched a 4.5-hour brain surgery in the operating room this summer. He's a crazy, brilliant kid. And my oldest son is in school to be a chef. He's in the International Cuisine École.
Very good. I must ask you, yesterday when you walked the green carpet, there were many LGBTQ activists with rainbow flags there. Because
How's the
today,
vote is today?
Yeah, and it looks like 65% or something are in favor of marriage for everybody.
It should be far more than 65%, because when is anybody else's sex life your business? You may not like it, you may not understand it, but it doesn't belong to you.
How did you become an activist for the LGBTQ cause?
You know, maybe because I actually know a lot of LGBTQ people. I grew up in the modeling business. I grew up in the fashion world, the film world, the art world. And then I became an AIDS activist. And I grew up with a lot of families who had someone they love who was ill. So I met a lot of moms and dads who had, you know, daughters, sons, cousins, friends. And I went through these experiences with a lot of families. And when you get to the family perspective, that's when you really start to learn how ridiculous we all behave. And then I think now that we've all gone through COVID, and we are going through COVID, that we recognize that infectious disease, you know, doesn't really pick you because of your gender or sexual persuasion or your actions. I mean, yes, you can do all the things you can to protect and take care of yourself, but infectious disease is an infectious disease. They're like little, you know, biological terrorists, and they're coming for you. And if you happen to be the unlucky one, it's a terrible situation. And I have been in enough pediatric AIDS wards to really, truly understand this. And for us to be prejudiced and unkind towards each other, the world is tough enough. We're here to learn things, primarily, I believe, to be loving. I don't think we have to even like each other or understand each other, but I really do think that we're supposed to love each other. That's the baseline, bottom line of what we can do. And if we're not doing that, no matter what religion we have or don't have, what are we doing, really? And the pretense that we're not doing it over some religion or ethical construct is just false. It's a way not to be present. It's a way to shroud your own fear with an idea. It's not true. Truth is being present. Truth is being compassionate. Truth is being understanding and available. All those walls are border walls. All those walls, what benefit do they actually give you? What are they keeping you safe from, really? If it's just understanding. Knowledge is power. Understanding is compassion. Shouldn't we have all those things if we're our best? I mean, that's at least my philosophy.
Thank you for sharing that. So we have 10 more minutes. Are you ready to take some questions from the audience?
Of course.
So if you have a question, please raise your hand. Someone in the middle up. Is there a microphone?
Yes. Well, I have more than one favorite movie. It's like I tell my children they're all my favorite, because they are. They're each my favorite in a different way. The Muse was my favorite in one way because I never had more fun making a movie. It was so much fun to work with Albert Brooks and his producer, Herbie. I never had more fun on a movie set. They're hilarious. I like to do comedy maybe more than any other thing. It just was marvelous for me. Of course, Casino was my penultimate because my goal as an actress was to be good enough to work with De Niro. I never dreamed I'd be good enough to work with Scorsese. So, come on. Basic Instinct, which I was so excited about in the beginning, but which became so hard for me later, is once again a favorite because it's taught me so much about being compassionate with myself and holding on to my own understanding of my own work and my own dignity.
Thank you. The woman in the middle, just shout loudly. Stand up, please.
I never give anyone advice about what they should do with their life. Everything that you choose to do is going to be hard. It's going to be a tough climb. And if you're going to succeed, you're going to have to be fully dedicated to it. The seventh art is a vocation. It's not a job. You have to dedicate your whole life to it. It's not a regular job. There's going to be years where you don't have any employment. And you have to have enough sense of self to survive. I feel that my greatest accomplishment is surviving, because it's a big deal to survive in a business such as this.
Yes.
Can,
Climate change.
I actually do feel that one of the most important things that we can do is understand that we as individuals have power. You can walk down the street every single day and see plastic bottles on the street. What is wrong with you if you don't pick them up and put them in the trash? If you let them roll into the sewer, you are corrupting your own water system. Is it too much for you to put your shopping cart back so that it doesn't hit someone's car, so that this doesn't go into car repair and more and more and more? It's this sense of individual responsibility is so much bigger than you imagine. If you deal with your own waste, pick up stuff that you see on the street. Stop just being asleep in your life day to day. If you start to realize that the kind of dishwasher you use and how much water, does it just dump the water? Or when it rinses the dishes, does it hold the water and use that same water to wash the dishes the next time? You could save something like 40 million gallons of water a year. So are you awake with what you can do? Are you actually awake? You know, I think it's just about waking up. I mean, Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, said that it is indeed only the individual that can make a change. And it is. It's not like joining a group, becoming some kind of advocate. It's not only this incredibly remarkable child, Greta Thunberg, that can make a difference, who's illuminating all of us. It's just like, wake up. Don't leave your crap here when you leave. Pick it up, take it out of the theater, put it in the trash can.
Thank you very much for talking about your career, your films, your lives, and your ideals. You're such a generous woman.
Tell us about you and Faye Dunaway, two amazing icons sitting down and having dinner.
Okay. I would actually love to do that, because that's very special to me, and she's very special to me. I'd be happy to do that. That's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
When I did Basic Instinct, when I was doing the PR for Basic Instinct, I met Faye at a photo shoot at Herb Ritt's house. Herb was a very dear friend of mine, God rest his soul. And they said, oh, don't talk to Faye. Don't look at Faye. Don't go near Faye. And I was, of course, are you kidding me? Faye Dunaway's here and you think I'm not going to look at her and talk to her? So I go down, she's shooting on the beach, and I said to her, Miss Dunaway, I would love to watch you do your photo shoot. And she said, great, just don't get in my eye line. I'm like, no problem. Because nobody wants that, really. It's distracting. So I go over on the side, I watch her, she does her shoot. I'm like, oh, you're amazing. I can't believe I'm watching Faye Dunaway. Okay. She comes off, and I'm like, oh, this is incredible. I talk to her. We have the best time. She says, I'd like to take you to lunch. I'm like, oh my God. Yes. She takes me to lunch, and she says to me, you're going to be such a big star. And I don't want what happened to me to happen to you. And I said, what happened to you? And she said, I ran off with the drummer of a rock and roll band and shot heroin. And I said, wow. And she said, yeah, you don't want to win an Oscar and run off with the drummer of a rock and roll band. So I'm going to be your buddy. And nothing's going to happen to you. And you can depend on that. And so the day before the premiere of Basic Instinct, the studio called me and said, there's so much stress around this movie that we can't have the premiere at the theater in public. People are picketing, it's a 3-ring circus. We're gonna do the premiere on the studio lot. We're gonna lock down the gates. We're gonna secure everything, it's a whole thing. Then, same day, I got a call from my parents that my uncle had died and that he had come home, gotten out of his truck, fallen, there was blood in the snow, there was blood all the way up to the front steps of his house, and he'd frozen to death in the snow. And they didn't know if it was a murder or what had happened, so no one could come. And we absolutely couldn't tell anybody because we couldn't have the murder scandal of my uncle on the same day as the Basic Instinct premiere. So we're all like, no, none of my family could come to the premiere. Nobody could go with me. And I'm all alone. And now the movie's been moved to the lot and there's a big drama and I'm by myself and I call Faye Dunaway. And I'm like, Faye, I'm in such shit and I have to go to my premiere of my first movie. Will you go with me? And she's like, you bet your ass I'll go with you. Send me a car. I've got you covered. So I'm like, okay, all right. Of course, Faye's late. So she gets here. We go in. It's terrifying. I've never been to a movie premiere, and I'm starring in this, right? We go in. We're in a room like this, which is very different than a movie theater in public, right? And everything's locked down, and there's guards all over the place. The movie plays. Of course, Hollywood's never seen a movie like this. Michael Douglas and Paul are sitting right in front of me. Faye and I are sitting here. The movie ends, and there's no applause. There's nothing. There's complete and total silence. And Michael just looks over his shoulder at me, like just a little bit like that. And I look at Faye, I go, what do I do? And she goes, don't move. Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't do anything. And I'm like, okay. And we sit, and minutes go by. Silence. And I am freaked the fuck out. And then suddenly, the entire audience erupts in screaming applause. But like, it took like 2-3 silent minutes. And everybody's screaming and yelling and applauding and cheering. And Michael turns around and goes like this. And I look at Faye and I go, what do I do now? And she goes, now, smile, because they can all kiss your ass. You're a big fucking star, baby.
Sharon Stone, ladies and gentlemen.